So in today's video, I want to focus on bid adjustments for devices that we're targeting. And when I say devices we're targeting, I'm talking about computers, mobile phones, and tablets. So Google automatically does this for us. They set this up and they start recording data. So what we need to do as advertisers is find out where their data is. I want to show you today how you can manipulate the data. And all we're doing is placements or devices that are working, we can make bid adjustments to bid more aggressively. Or if we're seeing a device working like mobile phones, say we're getting clicks, impressions, and we're getting conversions, and these principles apply to lead generation as well as e-commerce, then we can say to Google, bid more aggressively for mobile phones, which means all we're saying is we want to put more money towards mobile phones because mobile phones are working. And again, the opposite is true. If we're seeing that tablets getting some clicks, impressions, spending money is the key, but they're not getting any conversions, then why would we want to be showing our ads to devices like tablets? We can actually reduce how much money we're spending, or we can actually stop Google from showing our ads to people with tablets. And again, this is something that we need to make based on the data that we're seeing. So everything is data driven, but we can manipulate the key aspects to our Google ads that we're running to really kind of, what we're trying to do is what's working, we do more of it, and what isn't, we do less or we reduce what we're doing. So we're reducing the wastage of budget that we're spending on our Google ads. So we're just manipulating the data, but we need to know where we can find this data to make those manipulations, to the nuances to make us better advertisers. A 5 or 10% here, 5 10% there is going to make a big difference to our Google ads, especially if we're getting a lot of conversions coming through and we really want to fine tune what's working with our Google ads. So let's jump into a screen share and let's see where we can see the data that we need to do to look at devices that we're targeting. So we're in a screen share currently, and to come to this particular screen, what we need to do is come to campaigns, insights and reports, and when and where your ads are being seen. And if you click on this, click on your campaign as well, we can see we've got computers, mobile phones, and tablets. And we can see we've got some data here. It's not a lot of data. I'm going to jump into a second account shortly, but I just want to give you an overview of what we're looking at. So we can see computers has had 203 clicks, mobile phones 24 clicks, tablets has had no clicks yet, but conversions, we're seeing 17 conversions for computers. For mobile phones, we're getting 4 conversions, and for tablets, we're getting nothing. So if we wanted to, as an example, turn off tablets, what we could do with, you can increase or decrease the bid adjustment. So if you wanted to turn off tablets, you could do a decrease 100%. And here Google will give you an example of £10 bid will now become 0. And again, if we change this to 20% decrease, your bid adjustment now will go from £10 will now become £8. So we can make those bid adjustments based on the data that we're seeing. And again, if we wanted to, for mobile phones, we can see we're getting a cost per conversion. You've got to know what your cost per conversion, whether it be lead generation or e-commerce, because if, as an example, we're getting a cost per conversion here of £33, we're getting 4 conversions. What we could potentially say is if we wanted to improve, or if we're getting such a good cost per conversion, we could get more conversion. We could say to Google, we want to increase our bid adjustment by, say, 30%, 40%, 50%. And then from here, our bid adjustment will go from £10 to £13, which is saying we want more money to go to mobile phones based on we're getting conversions, we're getting at a good cost per conversion. And the opposite is true. If we see above, computers is getting 17 conversions, cost per conversion is maybe a little bit high. What we could say to Google is we want to decrease the bid here. So we could decrease based on the data. And if we wanted to say decrease it by 20%, we enter that in. And again, bid adjustment will now go from 10 to £8, and we want that to come down, less conversions. But what we're saying is we want more budget to be spent on mobile phones because we're seeing a better cost per conversion. So that's this particular campaign. So what we want to do now is, as we've looked at this, I want to jump into another campaign and just run through again, looking at the metrics. So again, we come to campaigns, the insights reports, when and where your ads are, and then we can see devices here. So again, computers, mobile phones, tablets. This particular account has a lot more data. So let's have a look at the data. So you can see here, I've turned tablets off. That's minus 100%. The reason I've done that, the cost per conversion was a little bit higher compared to mobile phones and computers, and a lot of the budget was being spent on these 2 particular items. So what I was seeing was the cost per conversion, we were getting less leads coming through, and I just wanted to reduce this. So what I did is go to the bid adjustment. I would decrease this by 100%. And then from there, what we're saying to Google or sending the signal is we don't want any of our ads being seen in tablets, because based on the data, it was doing okay, but it wasn't performing as well as computers and mobile phones. So from here, I've left these two running. But if I wanted to, as an example, looking at the cost per conversion, 733 against 794, if I wanted to increase this slightly, what I could do is say to Google, I want to increase the bid adjustment for mobile phones, say by 10%. And again, it will increase the bid adjustment here from 10 to 11, or I could do it at 20%, go from 10 to 12 pounds if we wanted to be a little bit more aggressive. So this is how you can manipulate the data based on how many conversions, clicks, impressions, and the cost per conversion. And then again, we can, I know a lot of advertisers will, before they even launch a campaign, will put tablets at minus 100%. I like to wait for a little bit of data, and then I like to then make those adjustments once I've got some data coming through, which is going to be 30, 60, 90 days. And then from there, we can make decisions where we want our money to be spent. Remember, Google will try and spread your money, but once it starts to see where it can get the lowest hanging fruit, which is conversions, it will start sending clicks, impressions, and start spending your money there. What we can do as advertisers, like I said, we can make sure that we're not seeing our money going to placements that we don't necessarily see the best returns. So that's why I've put a minus 100% here. I want to say to Google, we don't want any traffic coming to tablets. I just want to focus on computers and mobile phones. And if you can understand this concept, you can do this with a variety of different placements within Google to really fine tune your Google Ads account. So I hope that makes sense. If you have a Google Ad account that you want me to audit, just fill out the form below. I love looking at other accounts. Jump on to a 30-minute, no obligation chat where I can look at your Google Ads. And the aim is I'm looking to improve performance. And that's the key with Google. Small increments, looking at improving and understanding the data. Google gives you a lot of data, but we need to know where to find the data. And by providing these videos, we're showing you different placements in which you can manipulate the data, which will give you a 5% improvement here, a 5% improvement there. But over time, it's going to be massive. So remember that 1% today in 3, 6, 9 months could be 20, 30% improvement overall for your Google Ads campaign. And again, it's just understanding the data, making those changes, and really focusing in to improve the performance of your Google Ad campaign.